It is a simple word. I don't think we feel very often that we're confused by it, although it's a word that has a lot of meanings to it, really. Generally, it means what? To put your hand on something. That's what we mostly think. If we said somebody was going to touch something, that's what we would imagine. It's a verb and a noun. It means to touch, or a touch is something that you can feel. But generally, it involves a light touch. Wouldn't you agree? When we say the word touch this, we generally mean somebody just gently place your hand on it and touch that. It's a touch that makes it possible for you to receive information from the thing that you're touching about what it is. So, for example, if someone is holding a snake for you and they say, touch this, how many of you are going to do that? Okay. Who's not going to do it? Okay, all right. Actually, I'm surprised most people here. But if you do touch it, you're going to get a lot of information about what a snake is if you touch it. And if you touch it, the way we generally mean the word touch. Is it different with people? When you touch another person, do you find something out? Can you learn something from someone else? Lee, have you ever had to touch a person to find out what was going on with them? Yeah? Okay. So that's the thing. Now, let's talk about what touch, when we say touch, let's talk about what is technically a touch, but is not what we mean by touching. For example, touch is not hitting, right? You wouldn't confuse that if someone said to Lee, for example, touch this patient's leg and see what's going on. Lee doesn't hit them, right? Right? Usually not. Okay, I'm glad to know that. It is not the same thing. Touching is not really embracing. We shake hands sort of as a means of touching. Touching is not grabbing, it's not snatching, it's not pushing, it's not shocking, it's not smacking, hoarding, crushing, colliding, impacting, or even palpitating. It's not those things. Touch is just touching. Touch is touching. It is not taking someone by the throat. It is just touching. I may have told you this story before, and as far as I know, this man is no longer in the ministry, but I just want to tell you this story. He was a pastor, and it was Christmas Eve, and he had an organist who had a bad habit of not showing up until just before the service began. And it was Christmas Eve service, and he had put it in the bulletin that when the offering came forward, instead of the doxology, they were going to sing, "O Come All Ye Faithful." But because the organist didn't get there until just before the service started, he didn't get a chance to emphasize that with the organist. So when the service came to that point, the organist played the doxology instead of "O Come All Ye Faithful." And he said, I went to talk to him afterwards, and I found myself with my hands around his throat. Now, to me, that's somebody who needs to take a break from being a pastor for a while and maybe try something else. That is not touching. That's not what we mean when we talk about touching. It is not what we talk about when we talk about Jesus' touch. Another thing about touching. Touch is not optional. Human beings have to touch each other in order to be healthy and to grow. How many of you know about Harlow's monkeys? Have you heard of this experiment? It's a famous experiment from a while ago. They took baby monkeys and they put them in cages, and they gave them an option between this puppet here that does not look like a real monkey, and they gave them this one that has, as you can see, fur on it. No matter what they did, the monkeys would not bond to the one that was the fake one here. They had to have the fur contact. If they made it so that they got all of their food from the wire monkey, they would go there to the wire monkey to eat, and as soon as they were done eating, they would go back to the cloth monkey because they needed that touch. Back here in the back row is a good example of what's going on. How often would you say you touch your baby? That's right. Not when he's asleep, but I maintain that the reason babies have those puffy cheeks is just so you can't resist kissing them, because it's not that it is something that helps them. It's that it is essential. We have come to determine that skin-to-skin contact between baby and mother is essential for the baby's health to grow. So touch is not optional. We have to do this. We have to touch each other. Touch has great power. Most often it has the power to comfort someone else. If someone is telling you a story over coffee and they start to cry, what are you probably going to do?
Reach for their hand.
What are you going to do, Becky?
Reach for their hand.
You're going to reach out and put your hand on their hand or their arm. You're going to touch them in some way because it is such a comforting act. It is a way of saying, I hear your pain. I'm with you in this. We know that it has, and then that begins the healing process for the other person. You know that time when you have a crush on somebody and they touch you, like they're just walking past and they put their hand on your shoulder? Remember that? I don't know. Are you all too old to remember that? I remember that. So how powerful that is. I've noticed when I worked in high school that when girls take pictures, they always stand close and put their heads together. Have you noticed this? I don't know. Boys don't do it because boys are told, no, don't touch that guy. You don't need that. But girls give in to that. Generally, that sense that I need to be in contact. I need to be in physical contact with my friends. It is not optional. This is something we have to do. You have to have people in your life that touch you. One of the most difficult problems we have in America is we have people in nursing homes that never get touched, not in an affectionate way. Good nursing homes have staff people who will do that, who will just give a gentle, non-medical touch that just says, I remember, I know you. But touch is not just something we do with our hands either, because we do it with our words. One of the most important ways we have of touching other people is with what we say. When Brittany is holding her baby, I imagine she's also making little cooing sounds to the baby too. Am I right? Yes. How many of you have ever noticed this? You've been in the store. Your dog is in the car waiting for you. What percentage of people, when they get back in the car, say something to the dog? Yeah, it's 100%, right? Yeah, it might be, it might just be move over or I'll drive. But everybody that gets back in the car where a dog is waiting says something, hey buddy, how you doing? Because we know how important the words are to the touch. And the dogs have figured it out too. They like it too. They like when you talk to them. We bring about all kinds of changes in people with the words that we use. And we know how positive words make positive changes and negative words make negative changes. We know this happens. Words can touch gently and with love, and they can be powerful and they can be healing. When I first came to Maine, there was another pastor that was often put in front in things at the conference level, and she was really just kind of uptight and very direct about things and didn't seem to have much room for anything different. And I figured, this is a woman that I'm not going to get along with. But we really didn't have much contact until one day she came up to me, and this is what she said. I just want you to know that I love your sense of humor. And this was from a woman I didn't think had a sense of humor. Turns out she does. But that little bit of gentle word between her and me opened me up to the possibility that we could become good friends, and we have since then. Another pastor friend of mine was filling in at a church, and he was doing the children's time, and one of the kids after the children's time said to him, our other storyteller is better. He said, how is he better? And the kid says, he doesn't sweat as much as you. Fortunately, my friend Mike takes things like that in stride, but you know how this affects you. I got an email from a little girl who was once in my youth group, who now is 40, and said to me, I remember you. You were a great pastor. How did that feel to me? Felt great. What a wonderful way to touch other people we have with the words that we use. And that leads me to think about our systems. because we use our systems to touch other people. We use systems to touch people in large groups. The systems that we build around us are our ways of touching each other. Some systems are designed to build people up, and sadly, some systems are designed to tear people down. Now, our food pantry, if you've come to it, some of you have been there, some of you are there regularly, we have created a system that is designed to build people up. It is not just the giving out of the food. It is important to us that when people come there, they feel respected, they feel as if they're treated well, they feel as if they are welcome there, that it is not a burden on them. And that is part of the system that we have created so that when people come to the food pantry, they are nurtured in many ways. The systems that we design are our ways of touching other people. Our families are systems, and we construct them in such a way that they either lift people or hurt people. Our schools are systems. I want you to think about the school you went to as a child. Did the school you went to as a child, did it lift you or did it hold you down? What was it? Did you feel lifted by ours? What school was that?
Lyseth School in Portland.
Lyseth School in Portland, I know where that is, yeah. So in your case, that system was designed to lift you. I'm afraid I was in a system that seemed designed to push kids down, to make them feel less of themselves. I don't know why we would do that, but we do. Our churches are a system that we use to touch other people. And how do we touch other people with this system? You know what else is a system? Our politics, our political systems. Now, out there in the world are all of these hard-working public servants who are doing their very best to serve the people of this country. But we have others who have gotten caught up in the desire for power and to serve themselves, and that creates a system that doesn't work so well. These systems are all ways that we touch people, and when we build them the right way, they work well. Our model, of course, is, for all of this, is the way that Jesus touches us. The stories of the life of Jesus are filled with them, and if you listen carefully today, you saw case after case where Jesus touched someone, either with words or with his hands, to change things for them. He touches a blind man's eyes, a deaf man's ears, a leper's hand. He takes the hands of his disciples. He has children sit on his lap. He breaks bread and gives it to people, places it in their hands. And people touch him. They reach out to him. They want to just touch even just the edge of his robe. They want his blessing. And sometimes they seem to know that power came from him when they did that. Jesus was acting as a conduit for the power of God, and it came through his touch and his words. The thing about it is that the people who were touched by Jesus, or who touched him, mostly were not the same ever again after that. Some of them were healed from illnesses. Some of them were healed from spiritual illnesses. Some of them found what they had been looking for, a way to know God, a way to live a better life. Some of them became disciples. Some of them became leaders. Some of them became workers in the new community of the church of Jesus' followers. Some of the people that Jesus touched became angry and fearful of this power that would bring about these changes and turned away from it. Others knew that they had been blessed by the love of God, and some knew what it was to be pushed and shoved out of their old lives into their new ones. And I believe I have been touched by Jesus. Over the years now, I think I have been touched in every way you can touch somebody. I have been stroked, smoothed, hugged, kissed, slapped, tackled, embraced, struck, bandaged, sewn, guided, cleansed, dirtied, patted, prodded, pulled, punched, and pushed. Over the years, everything. But I know that I have also been touched by Jesus. I can think of 2 times in my life when it actually seemed to me like a physical touch, a mystical physical touch that touched me. But I also know that the words of Jesus came to me and touched me and changed the person that I am, set me free from things that I didn't even know I didn't want to be enclosed by. It was a touch of truth. It was a touch of love. It was a touch that freed me to become the person Christ wanted me to be. So I'm asking you today to be open to that possibility, that Jesus touched you. My point of view on this is you're here today in large part because Jesus touched you, whether you noticed it or not. But I ask you to notice it. Be aware of the power of Christ in your life. Be aware of the healing power of Christ in your life that touches you and changes you and makes you into the person that Christ wants you to be. You are in need of that touch. Touch is not optional. You have to have it. Let yourself be touched by Christ. You already have been. So let it grow, let it blossom, and let those changes that come through the touch of Christ come to be in you. Amen.
You've been listening to a sermon by Reverend Stephen Carnahan, pastor of High Street Congregational Church in Auburn, Maine. If you feel inspired by what you hear, you're invited to join us in person for worship services every Sunday morning, starting at 10 o'clock. Of course, you can always listen to Steve's sermons on the web. New sermons are posted every Monday by midday. Please explore this website for more information about our church, or visit our Facebook page at High Street Congregational Church, UCC, where you'll find the video version of Steve's sermons as well. We hope that God's presence will be known to you every hour of every day. May God's blessings rest upon you now and always. See you next week.